I'm Renee Richard, and we are here in the chapel that exists on the campus of Xavier University in New Orleans. Last week on our show, we interviewed one of the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, the order that was founded by St. Katharine Drexel, and she told us a lot about her early life, her dreams, desires, and what she wanted for her order. And so this week, in a different light, I'll be interviewing the very first African-American woman to enter the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. And she did so when Sister Katharine Drexel was still alive. And so we have a firsthand account of this woman's journey in the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament and knowing St. Katharine Drexel. Join us today as we explore the latter years of St. Katharine Drexel's life. I have with me today Sister Juliana Haynes. Sister Juliana is a member of the congregation of the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. But there's something special about Sister Juliana in the fact that we're going to hear about her knowing St. Katharine Drexel. And she was there for her beatification and her canonization. But before we get there, let's just talk a little bit about St. Katharine. Just so our viewers know, last week we learned a lot about her. She was from Pennsylvania.
Oh, no, I was born in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay, you were born in,
I
was talking about
I'm a
St.
Yankee.
Catherine, yeah.
I'm a Yankee.
But that's fine, okay.
Catherine was born in Philadelphia, of course. But I was a product of the Boston Catholic School. No, I take that back. I was a product of public schools up until the first year of high school. And in first year of high school, my mother put us into a Catholic school. And that was a real cultural change for me.
Yeah, you were telling me that's the first time that you were ever introduced to nuns.
Well,
to
during the 8th grade.
Right.
My mother told me about how they were very special people, how they'd given their lives to God, how they wanted to do good and follow God and do what he wanted and help other people know about God. And, in my 8th grade wisdom, I thought, that's nice. And they wore these long habits, mysterious, and the veils
Intrigue.
and all. And so, and I really thought, I would like to be a nun someday. And I made the mistake of telling my mother. And so she arranged that I was going to go to this Catholic school, high school, which I did. I was the only African-American girl, it was girls' school, to come into that high school ever. I was the only African-American to be taught by those sisters ever. I didn't realize exactly what that meant until, I had to learn. I had to learn what that was like. And it's good I did because it influenced my whole religious life. I wasn't in one separate race. It was mixed race,
Okay.
And for me, it was eye-opening, and for the others, it was an eye-opening too, because for me, I was the first African-American they had ever lived with or worked with. And I didn't think it was such a big deal myself, because you never do. But then I learned more about those people too, about the other races, especially the white race, and I learned to love that. Well, I always did. I always liked it because I never had anybody else to love, But anyway.
So tell me how that influenced your going into the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament.
My mother was so happy that one of her children was going to be a sister or a priest. She had hopes for my brother, but he didn't work out. Me. And so, but when I got into high school, I saw another world opening up, and I changed my mind. I decided, no, I didn't want to go into a cloister. No, I didn't want to do that yet. So, not yet. I didn't want to do that. And I got away with it until a senior year when the counselor wanted to know, well, I understand that you were looking at religious life. See, my mother, she's so proud of me. Yeah. And I said, well, yeah, I did. What do you think now? Where would you like? Well, I would like to wait a while. I think I've changed my mind. You know, I don't want to do that. And they weren't accepting no for an answer. So they told me, well, why don't I ask some religious orders to tell me about themselves, and maybe I might change my mind back again. I wrote 3 letters. One to the Black congregation, the Holy Families, the Oblates in Baltimore, and the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. And one of them answered me, Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament. And I learned about them and what they did, and they seemed just made to order.
Match made in heaven.
So I said, well, I wrote them a little note, and I said, thank you very much for your information, but, you know, I can't afford the dowry. I forget how much the dowry was. It wasn't much. It might have been $500 or something like that. That's what you pay for your entrance fees. And I said, I come from a family of moderate means. I'm the oldest child, and I think I should stay around to help them. That sounded like a good argument to me, you know. 40 years later, I opened the archive and with my folder, just out of curiosity of what I was like at that. And I found this letter, nicely written, you know, good grammar, good everything else. I come from a family of moderate means, and so I believe my place is at home with them at this time. So I waited 2 years. And in those 2 years, I found out what life is like as a lay person, you know, making your own living. I had a job, a good job. And I went out to dances and all the rest of that, and something was missing. And then one day, I got this little book. It's put out by the Josephite Fathers. At that time, it was called The Colored Harvest. And I was just reading it, because I had nothing else to read at the point. And I came to this little picture, and it was a picture of Jesus. And he was holding his hands like that. And he said, and the caption said, with all my heart, I love you. Simple as that.
That was
Changed
it?
my
Your
mind.
calling.
I went down and said, Ma, I'm ready to get ready. I'm ready to go.
And
I keep, that's one of my prayers. Every single day I say that prayer, with all my heart, I love you. And it's taken me through many, many years, believe me, ups and downs, but it was really sent by God. Right now, it looks like one of those, you know, dinky little prayers. You know, if I saw it again, I'd probably pass over it, but it was the right time and the right place. And so I got ready. And I have never regretted.
Yeah.
Never. It hasn't been all candy and cake, you know.
Nothing ever is.
No, there have been ups and downs. I have never said, I don't think I should be here. Never. I don't want to be here. Yes, I want to be here, and I want to do this. And it's been a grace. It's been a real blessing, and I thank God for that. So that's my background. When I entered, I didn't know anything about the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, except that they had a great devotion to the Blessed Sacrament, and my mother did too, and I did. So that fit. Secondly, they worked among the Black people. They taught and they worked among the Black people. And I thought, yeah, that's good. And it was a interracial, I thought it was an interracial congregation. It all fit together. So because they had a center in Boston, and as soon as they found out that I was kind of open to this, they told me to go and visit the center of the Sisters of the Blessed Sacrament, and they had workshops for young people, young women especially, who were thinking about it, and they had a retreat day, and they had all the rest of that. And it was all Black people here, you know. I mean, the nuns were white, but they're all Black people. Fine, we're going along fine here. And I entered, and then I found something else special about them. Their foundress was still living.
St. Katharine Drexel, yes.
Well, see, now I'm 18 years old, and foundress didn't it didn't mean that much. I knew it was wonderful things that she'd done, of course, but, you know, it's not way up there, you know. That was
real,
the first
it's real, it's tangible. It's
the
just
next
right there.
thing that I found out, I was one of the first black people to enter that convent, into that community. Now, others had entered, but they had never stayed. For one reason or another, they had never stayed. But I entered, and I found home. I found home. And at the same time, there was a Navajo sister, a Navajo young lady, 18. She might have been 17. I was a little bit older because I'd taken a couple of years away. And she was a Navajo, first one.
Amazing. So both of y'all.
Both black
first.
and Indian. And that's how come I got to meet Mother Catherine earlier, because we got entered and we got our little veils on, and we began to learn what you do, how you genuflect, and then came her birthday. I think it was her birthday. It was in November. And so the novices, of course, we all made a card, and we all signed it, and we made sure it was a beautiful card, and there was a little birthday card, because a birthday cake, because Mother Catherine at that time was an invalid. She was okay up here, but she had had a couple of bad heart attacks, and she was confined to a bed in a wheelchair. So we would take the novice mistress, who was our director. She got us all to make this card, and we all signed it. And then Sister Gloria and I were sent up to bring it to her. Now, I never knew why Gloria and I were chosen. No, it didn't click until, I was up there, and we went into her, and we said, happy birthday, Reverend Mother. We're all praying for you, or something of that order. And we offered her the card, and she took both, and she smiled at us, and she said, and you're novices now? And we said, yes, Mother. Yes, Reverend Mother was Reverend Mother. And she said, God bless you, or something. I don't remember the words, but it was something welcoming and something nice, something soothing. And so we gave it to her, and the nurse was there, and she took it all and arranged it around her bedside. And we went down. End of story. Until one of the sisters, one of the older sisters said, oh, aren't you lucky you got to go up to see Mother Catherine, and you're just novices? And I said, well, yeah, I guess so. And then it was the why. Why we changed it. And it was so that Mother Catherine could see that one of her best wishes was that her congregation would include black and Indian members.
That's what she founded it for. That's her
To
dream.
help the black and Indian people. But now to find that they were coming in and being part of it, and it was like another beginning for her, you know?
That's it.
And so I thought, oh, that is nice.
So that's
I mean, not a
amazing.
big thing, but nice.
Well, no, at that point in time, too, you didn't realize it looking
just a
back
teenager.
at this point.
Yeah.
You see the significance of, with
no,
St.
no.
Katharine Drexel. I mean, her life's work was, and the founding of your order
It was like
to
frosting on the
serve.
cake, you know? Here are some, now they're going to begin to take it over and help us with this work.
That's it.
And by taking over, I don't mean in charge, but I mean
Being part of it.
part of the
Being
hands
active.
and the feet that have to do God's work.
And we're back, and we were just talking about your opportunity to actually meet St. Katharine
talk to
Drexel
her.
and talk. Yes, So, but you were there throughout the rest of her life. You were.
I was there for the last 3 years. I didn't see her every day. I didn't see her every week. But we knew she was there. And when she would get any kind of a sickness, or cough or something, we would all pray for Mother Catherine. And in that way, you knew that the lady up there in the bed was very important. But you never had a sense that there was this distance between us. She's just another sister. And then in 1955, in March 1955, my band, but the group of us that all entered together, this was Gloria, the Navajo sister, and myself. We were in what they call closed retreat, and those were 9 days when we devoted ourselves to prayer, and we thought about what we were going to do and the necessity of it. And we were in a side chapel of our we have a big chapel, but there are side chapels too. And we were in there, and the priest was giving the sermon, and the side door opened, and our mother, our mistress of novices, came in, and she was crying. And that was the first startling thing. And she said to us, "Our Reverend Mother has just gone to God." We knew she had pneumonia, and we were praying for her health, but she'd gone to God. And so everything stopped right there. The priest stopped, and we all said a prayer. And then we disbanded. We went to what we had to do next. And I think the biggest thing was seeing the novice mistress, so disturbed. But then the whole ambience of our religious group there changed because people became very busy. They had expected. They had expected the death. They had to come sooner or later. There was a tomb built in the chapel in the basement of the chapel, right underneath the big altar.
Okay.
And it was set for her to be interred, so that she would always be in her own home. This was her home. She built the mother house. And then the telephone began ringing. And some of us were on the switchboard, but then they had others of us. We didn't have microphones at that time. We had bells. You rang the sisters' bells. The bell was continually ringing for something, for the undertaker, for the priest.
Right.
And then the media got it. And then we had reporters around.
Because she was so well known, so
Of course,
worldwide with her work.
Yeah. But in an unobtrusive way. It's
Oh,
a
no,
way
I
where
know.
you do something and you stand back and watch it. She had all of this money, and it was left to her by her father, of course, who was a multimillionaire. But he had sent this amount for each of his 3 daughters. Well, Elizabeth died in childbirth, so there was nobody else to lead her. So hers come to the coffer there. And her youngest sister, Louise, was almost as much of a saint as Catherine was. She was giving out to every charity. But when she died, that came into the coffer. So you had somebody who was doling out money for different charities among blacks and Native Americans, and not saying much about it at all, but things were happening there. The people who were getting the rewards, they always remembered her. Well, anyway, we had this long path from the chapel, from the Mother House building down to the roadway. Long, it was about a quarter of a mile. Maybe, a quarter of a mile down there. And it was just a winding road. They started putting up these lights on the string down the road because people were coming at night. And the sisters who were answering the doors had to be present at all the doors because you had to funnel the crowd in. And it was a crowd. It was men, it was women, it was bishops, it was nuns, it was just about everybody you could think of. Now, me and my little cohort there, we were in retreat still.
Oh, okay, so you were not aware of just how prominent
I didn't know how important she was. I didn't know how important the world felt she was. I didn't know. And I would say the Mother House opened to the world at that time.
Right.
We got telegrams and messages from overseas, from Africa, from Ireland, from Spain, from all over. And during mealtime, we never talked. It was always quiet. But they read to us. And they would read to us from the telegrams that were coming and the messages and the thanks and everything that was coming.
From her.
And we were supposed to be what they called keeping custody. It means you keep your eyes down, you mind your own business, and you're praying. So I can remember walking back to the novitiate, and I can see all these feet. I was down like that. But they had feet with boots on, high heels, sandals, every kind of... Fascinating. I would walk down and just keep my eyes down. So finally, then they had the body laid out in our chapel. Well, there's another little problem, because people wanted relics.
Oh.
And by relics, usually they meant, give me for some saints, you have little pieces of bone and other things like that. And we were about to have Mother Catherine cut up. No way.
At that point.
But then they had pieces of things that she used or wore. And for all those years, she had these nightgowns. So they started cutting up the nightgowns into little strips, and then they put them in a holy card and said, she wore this. And it was called a second-class relic.
Right.
The people who came in from the coffin was here. They came in here, and they went around the coffin and back out. Well, we had sisters and priests. Sisters stood at each corner of the coffin, and that was simply to help direct the people before, and to cut down on the people who wanted to touch, to take a little bit of something.
We were talking, about her death and her funeral, and which is fabulous to hear about, because this is a firsthand account from you of what happened there. But let's talk a little bit about the years following that and the recognition that she's holy and all of the work that went into, because we only have a few minutes left, but I'd like to hear, they started probably within a few years working on the preparations for her canonization.
Some had been working before she died.
Before she died. I gathered that when you said that about they wanted the relic.
Yeah, and they wanted the crypt there. And so Mother Catherine herself would say there would never be a Sister of the Blessed Sacrament canonized because it cost too much. We could never afford it. And we'd take that money from the poor and put it on her? No way, no. So
but
that's
the
what
life
you
she
said.
led,
Wow.
that it's not what she wants at that point.
That's
it's
right.
what's seen in God's eyes as this holy woman's life. So you were present, though, for all of this that's going on there. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but tell us then.
I'm really younger than I look.
That's
what I said. Don't let these years confuse you. So anyway, she was buried. No, she died on the 3rd. We had the Mass at the Mother House for just the community, and we were all there. And then the day after the Mass in the community, her body was taken to the cathedral, and they had the bishops and everybody there,
all the
big thing, and all
right.
the media. And then her body was brought back home to us and put in the crypt.
Is that where her shrine is now?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where.
And that's the Mother
now,
House?
Of course, we're about to change that because we're moving from the Mother. It's too big for us.
Okay.
So I don't know what's going to happen to it, but they're thinking of taking her body and moving it down to the cathedral.
Okay.
Okay. And then the day after her body was interred in the Mother House, I took my first vows.
Oh, wow, right at the same time.
So she was buried on the 8th, and I took my vows on the 9th of March. And all of the dignitaries from our congregation, all the mothers and all the people who are in charge, they all came, and the oldest living came in for the funeral. Oh, we never saw all these people before, and they all stayed for us.
Isn't that amazing?
To see us say our first, and we didn't appreciate it much. We're taking our, that was a big thing.
That was a big thing.
Yeah, that was on a par with Mother Catherine dying. So, but then things began to happen. People came to interview her, and they said, now collect all the things that she used, all the documents, every book put it all together. We have to look at it all. Now, Mother Catherine, one of her big virtues was the virtue of poverty. For millionaires to find this. So she would take these little books, and her little pencil, not a pencil, and she would write down her meditation notes and what was going on, and kind of keep data. And then when it was down to a nub, she'd get another little pencil. Had all of these books there. And guess who is called to decipher them? Us, the newbies, So we got these little things,
what an honor. Yes.
to write down what she had written. And it was really amazing what she had written. You didn't think people wrote stuff like that, but it was deep, and it was inspiring, and it was wonderful. So we did consider that a privilege.
I guess so. And what she wrote to influence you at that stage in your life.
Yeah.
So amazing.
So time went on, and then the chancellor of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, the Archbishop, who knew Mother Catherine, he said, we are announcing that her cause is coming up. It's going to be presented.
Awesome.
We didn't know what that, but that meant more interviews and all the rest
Right,
of
and
it.
for our viewers, that is when they feel like they've got enough information and enough history to present it to Rome.
That's right.
For them to start the process of her becoming an official saint of the Catholic Church.
Well, a
So I just wanna-
candidate,
A
yeah.
candidate.
Then
But the
you have
process,
to get
starting the
some
process, right?
miracles.
Miracles, so tell us about the
Oh,
miracles.
the miracles.
Can you do it quickly? We have what,
Well,
about,
okay.
we have
We
like
had-
2 minutes.
We said,
What were the 2
we
miracles?
want
Yeah.
Mother Catherine, we want her to be recognized, if God wants that. So if you have anything exceptional that happened as a result of your praying for this miracle, let us know. And the letters started coming in, and more than one.
Right.
But each one had to be investigated, was there enough to say that this was really unusual? And finally, this one came, and it's from a local young man, and he had lost his hearing as a child. And the mother prayed, brought him and his family to the crypt. And they prayed, Mother Catherine, please see that he gets his hearing back, please. And the next visit to the doctor's office, and the doctor said, what have you been doing with this child? Nothing, we're just saying, he
It's healed.
has his hearing back. And it was a case of a bone. He had some kind of an infection there, and the bone had disintegrated, and the bone never comes back.
But it had.
His bone came back.
Okay, well-
He's alive now, and he's hearing fine.
Amazing. Okay, we have about 1 minute left. That's all on this whole show.
Thank you so much.
No,
I-
we're not through. So tell us, tell me, you were there for her beatification?
I was there for the beatification in Rome.
And
Wonderful
so,
time.
and you've touched
And
her,
all
so
of
you're a
us-
second relic.
I am a second
A relic
class
is,
relic.
yeah, a second-class relic. A
Yeah.
relic of hers would be a part of herself.
That's
But
right.
anything that touched her, in a saint's case, is a second relic. And so
That's
you
right.
are
It was
that. But,
wonderful.
so you went to Rome.
We went
You
to
were-
Rome.
You were present.
Everybody couldn't go. We didn't have money enough. I mean, it
Okay.
takes a lot.
Yeah.
So we had a lottery, and
And
we
you got to
chose
go.
names. Well, some of them we had. The oldest one went.
We're almost out of
And the-
time. Was
and
it
the-
oldest, or did you pull the lottery?
oldest, and then we pulled the lottery.
And you won
After
the
we
lottery,
could-
see, that's her.
No, I was in charge at the time. I went by right of office,
Okay, we're out of time.
which was
so-
not that great either, to tell you the truth.
But you got to go and you were present.
I was right.
Thank you so much, Sister
Was a pleasure.
Juliana, for being on
you're,
the show.
You're a nice person.
Oh,
You're very
and learning
nice
more
to-
firsthand about
Nice to-
St. Katharine Drexel from someone who has known her your whole career,
been
your whole
blessed.
career in the
been
Sisters of the
blessed.
Blessed Sacrament. Thank you, folks, for joining us.
Thank
Join
you
us
very
again
much.
for another episode of Roots of Faith.